Hey everybody. This is another installment in the series called The Lord's Home Defense. This one will be talking about the alert system. Now say something does happen, and we all hope and pray that nothing does happen especially at church. But say a deadly situation happens at church. Somebody comes in and wants to do harm to people in the church. What is the alert system? Who gives the signal to respond in all those scenarios? First up on this, does the pastor or the pulpiteer give the call to action? Does the guy behind the pulpit that's doing the preaching, does he signal everybody that something's wrong? You know, this might be an obvious tactical choice because in most churches, the best vantage point is from the pulpit. I mean, churches are designed like that just to give a focal point to the most important part of the church, and that is the preaching of the gospel. So there's a spiritual reason for that, but you can take a tactical advantage from that vantage point. In most churches that I have been in, the pulpit has a straight view out the doors, so the pulpiteer can see who's coming in and out of the doors, main doors at least. And in most churches that I've seen, he has a view of most of the doors, the entrances, and the exits to at least the auditorium. Tactically, this should be a no-brainer. Yeah, he should be able to respond to stuff like that, but you can't just think tactically. You have to think practically, and in the church, you have to think spiritually. Does the pastor or the pulpiteer feel like he should have to respond to lethal threat? This doesn't go all the way to the point of the pulpiteer carrying a firearm, which is up to him. But let's just say the pulpiteer doesn't want to worry about who's coming in and out, and he just wants to focus on what he's preaching. There's nothing wrong with that. I will not say anything against that because it would be sort of hypocritical for me to do so. But if he doesn't want to do it, should he at least scream, "Lord, help me," or something like that, some code word to trigger everybody to respond if he doesn't pull out his own decision maker and start making choices? But also think about this. Does the pastor or the pulpiteer have to give the signal? Say somebody breaks in the back and there's an armed responder in the back and he starts responding. Then everybody goes on alert. You know, when you're preparing for defensive situations, I am not entirely sure that you can plan every scenario out. Even though you should plan and try to prepare for it, I'm not sure there is a perfect answer for every scenario. Because we're humans, nothing's going to be perfect. But that's just a thought out there. Should the pastor or the pulpiteer have to give the call to action? Next is, should the sound system be used to signal the armed responders? I'm talking about, say the pastor gives the jazz hands or some sort of signal to say, hey, something bad's happening. Since the sound system has control of the sound everywhere, should they, I don't know, start whistling the Marines hymn in the system or something like that? If everybody knows if the sound just cuts off and nothing's coming through, not even static, then there is something wrong. The sound system in most churches is in the back of the auditorium. Therefore, they could respond in a manner and hide from view. Say they keep a microphone back there in case of an emergency or a tactical response, and they start talking to the person, negotiating. I don't know. I'm throwing thoughts out there. Since the sound system is in the back of the auditorium, generally speaking, it is out of the attack range of, I think, most criminals would kick in the front door. So therefore, they could most likely signal, or say somebody in the sound system calls 911. That's a great solution too. Since he is in the back of the auditorium, away from the firing lane that theoretically most attackers would be firing from, somebody in the sound system could hide and call 911, give them all the details and all that stuff. But also, another topic is, should the armed responders take microphones with them to signify whether they clear rooms or if there's further engagements. Now, this might seem odd, but anybody in the tactical, combative community knows that communication is key in any kind of engagements. So if the armed responders could communicate with each other and even the pastor, the person head of protection and all, it would be vitally important for them for the people responding to threats to communicate with each other. And hooking them up to the sound system, to me, makes sense. Now, granted, they might want a walkie-talkie system or, some sort of phone conversation. That works too. I'm just throwing out ideas of the sound system so that everybody in the congregation can know, okay, we're safer. There's something else happening, as well as the people protecting them. So, those are just some thoughts on the alert system for your Lord's home defense. Should the pastor or the pulpiteer give the call to action? Should the sound system be used to signal the armed responders to action? Should the armed responders take microphones with them to signal whether they have cleared the building or there are further engagements in the building that wish to do harm to people? Thanks for listening. I hope it helps. And I'll remind you to walk a Christian walk and carry a loaded Glock.